Hallo und herzlich willkommen zur zweiten Ausgabe von Drink at Home im Jahr 2021. Letzte Woche hatten wir die älteste Brauerei aus Österreich zu Gast. War ein wirklich toller Abend für alle, die dabei waren. Ich hoffe, es hat euch gefallen für alle, die nicht dabei waren und heute dabei sind. Ihr habt wirklich was verpasst, aber ihr könnt es natürlich nachschauen und nachverkosten auf unserem YouTube-Channel. Heute Abend freut es mich ganz besonders, da es eine Brauerei aus Estland ist. Es ist Põhjala, die wir heute zu Gast haben. Bevor ich zu meinen Gästen komme, ganz kurz für all diejenigen, die vielleicht doch noch immer zum ersten Mal dabei sind. In euren Paketen habt ihr gefunden diese kurze Beschreibung über meine Gäste. Dann die Verkostungsnotizen auf der Rückseite, wo ihr gleichzeitig auch findet die Reihenfolge, wie wir die Biere verkosten werden. Und dann gibt es auch wieder unseren Online-Verkostungsbogen, wo ihr ganz einfach Notizen machen könnt und einschreiben könnt, wie euch die Biere geschmeckt haben. Wichtig ist, Fragen einfach drauf los in den Facebook-Channel. Wir werden versuchen, so viele wie möglich zu beantworten. Wir haben zwei Gäste, die sich sehr gut auskennen rund um die Brauerei. Und ich würde jetzt einmal sagen, good evening from Vienna to Tallinn. Hello.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Okay. So, yes. I would say we're going to start with you, Chris. Tell us a little bit, because Peter, for some beer geeks from Austria, he's already a face which is known in the Austrian beer scene. But Chris, you are kind of new face for most of the Austrian people.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, one regret is like one country I haven't been able to visit in the Põhjala beer tour is Austria. Hopefully, one day soon that's going to change. But yeah, so I'm head brewer over here, and I've been with the guys since basically since day two. So ever since we brewed our first beer together, then I've been here. Originally from Scotland, I've been living in Estonia for almost 8 years now, and yeah, kind of a big lover of dark beers, porters, which is where a lot of the bonding between us comes from, actually. And originally we kind of met up back in Scotland when I was working for Brewdog, and eventually I moved over to here. So okay. In a nutshell, that's pretty much how I came to be over here, and yeah, I guess that's a hello from me.
That's cool, Chris. Go a little bit. So 2011, you met or joined Peter or the guys from Põhjala. So that means when you started then at Brewdog?
2012. It was 2012 we met with Chris.
Okay, then it was 2012. Sorry.
But yeah, so Peter and one of the other founders, Gerne, were over at Põhjala the second time, over at Brewdog for the second time. They were doing a small internship over there because, you know, back in the day when we were first talking about starting up the brewery, then there was home brewing but not brewing experience. So you want to see how a craft brewery works, and there wasn't that much imported craft beer available at the time, as I understand. So the favorite was far and away Brewdog, and they wrote and came to visit, and then eventually found James Watt there and asked him, can we come back?
Okay.
So much, I guess. Scotland is a beautiful place, after all.
Yeah.
That's exactly.
I agree.
So yeah, we met there whilst I was working. We were working together. We were drinking together, and we were just sort of talking about what we all wanted from breweries and brewery life in general. And kind of realized very quickly in that there was a lot more like that put us together than was different from each other, and that just kind of naturally evolved after they left. To go back home to Estonia. We stayed in touch and we kind of worked together already from then.
Okay, cool. But then when you started at Brewdog?
That was just the year before, so straight out of university. I kind of was applying for a job in their second bar that they opened in Edinburgh, and James Watt actually replied, like saying, I looked at your CV, and you say you've been doing a lot of home brewing. Wouldn't you rather work at the brewery than at the bar? And I was like, yeah, didn't know it was an option. So I moved up there a year later after that interview, joined the team there. So pretty crazy time back in craft beer in those days.
Yeah, that's true. And it was also unbelievable for most of us, back in 2012 or 11, that James Watt personally answered an email, that's not possible anymore, He is really hard to reach. But yeah.
True. Yeah.
Cool story. Before we move to Peter, Chris, where you guys are sitting. So what's your background?
Yeah, so this is actually a real background.
Okay.
We're over in the deepest part of our barrel room inside the Noblessner brewery. We moved here back in the end of 2018, but one of the big advantages of this place is we just have so much more space for barrels, which I'll talk more about later on when we're drinking the last two beers. But yeah, so this is here. We've got some EXO just to the side of us, some other beers that you probably can't read the signs of that are coming out later this year as well.
Okay.
It's best place to be.
That's perfect. And you're sitting in the brewery, which is great. Yes. So, Peter, hello again.
Hey.
Peter, before we start talking about, of course, the brewery, tell us a little bit about the current situation. How does it looks like in Estonia with all these COVID issues we had? So what is the current situation in Estonia?
We are a brewery, but we also do have a tap room, the restaurant, and all the serving business was shut down just before Christmas because the pandemic was on the rise, and they were fearing this, especially during the festive season. The people would be unnecessarily losing their head and going out, and just only since this week. We've been allowed to be open until 7 o'clock, basically, in terms of, again, they're not, because it's not very common in Estonia to start drinking during the daytime, so it would be always the after-work drink. So in that sense, they're keeping the situation under control, and it's allowing us to actually fire up our kitchen and serve food and keep our serving staff busy and keep the morale up as well. Obviously, all the seating has been taken. He's been taking precautions. It's not as usual seating. We have a half of the seating. Everybody's wearing masks. We're doing all the precautions and trying to get back to life. I think the pace of the vaccine thing is the same as in Austria. The medical personnel first and elderly people and. So we are far from being vaccinated, but at least for me personally, like you asked, if it's okay, because of course it's the sausage with two ends. It's so I actually prefer it to be open as it is now, and from a personal perspective, I don't know if I told you before or not, but I got COVID positive result for Christmas. I got tested positive on 26th of December, and so all my New Year's was in solitude with my wife, who was also positive. So I know what I'm talking about, and obviously we're taking all the precautions.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was a smooth infection, or you?
Funnily, in my partner, we got it from the same meeting. We had all the masks, but anyway, it wasn't helping. And he had a bit heavier, but I had pretty mild symptoms. I didn't lose the sense of
tasting.
I had my smell. I tested with beer and garlic daily.
That's important. Okay. So we are far away here in Austria from a reopening of on-trade and bars, because we got really bad news on last weekend that there will be a lockdown until end of February, and we will hope, and we all hope, and we all pray that hopefully we will be back in business in March, but no one knows really, how it goes. But now it's enough to talk about COVID. Now we're going back to 2011, when you and three friends met together and decided to start Põhjala.
So yeah, exactly. It was from different channels. We already had got a taste on the beers, and it was a circle of friends who were always connected through the culinary interests. We've been traveling together, we've been cooking together, and when the new phase of a new layer of our taste buds were touched by the craft beer, this was the first time we realized that, this is something we could replicate, and, started getting very heavily into the more of the producing side of the beer and understanding how the beer is made, and got our first funny kits. And to be honest, it was really rapidly in the same pace as we were discovering the recipes and trying just out the brew. It wasn't the way that, we were assuring the way like, oh, we're great home brewers. We just got interested, and then as we got interested in the home brewing and got our first brews made, we already were heavy. Like when we put our mind and interest and energy into this, let's make a business out of it. I've been an entrepreneur almost all my life, and my partners, they were all like, coming from the other ends of life and realized themselves as also entrepreneurs through the Põhjala project. So there was a lots of different experience of the different sides of life. One guy is an IT wizard. There's another guy from a very strong business background, En, who's our managing director there. I'm coming from the vans and all these action sports, shoes, all this, more of a marketing and events. It's very well connecting with the craft beer world. So, and then we were all added up with Chris, with a young brewing wizardry. And Chris said just after university he studied at Brewdog. He did not study brewing at university. What was the faculty that you were at?
That's true. That was actually business and marketing.
You graduated from my job.
See how that worked out.
So basically, the whole when we started Põhjala, we didn't have any brewing background, and basically Chris was the most experienced of us with 1.5 years or 2 years from Brewdog. So we have all learned with Põhjala. So there, obviously we have made some mistakes, but we can honestly say that we have graduated from Põhjala University.
Okay. And you even also learn out from the mistakes, which is a really, really good and important one, because when you do mistakes, then you have to figure out to get rid of these mistakes, and that's the best way I think you can learn. Peter, so you're one of the founder, but tell us before we start with the first beer, what does Põhjala mean?
Oh, that's a great one. Põhjala means Põhjala as when you put it in a Google Translator, it says Nordic or Nord. Actually, it has a little bit mythical feel about it. It means a northern territory, so it's not really something that you could describe or border very clearly, but it's also kind of has a feel of a dark gold land up there.
Okay.
But the Põhjala means up to the north, and we are pretty much the north. So anything comes from the north has a little bit of mythical feel, and and then the Aurora Borealis, the northern lights, and all that comes from the north. So, So we very clearly, how to say, we are a northern eastern country, but very much feel ourselves like a part of northern Europe, and I wouldn't say like Scandinavia, but just like a northern Eastern Europe. We wouldn't like, when you say like Eastern Europe, it would be, I'm not saying anything bad, but I'm just like, first of all, we have that's why we have the name in Estonian. Most of the beer names are in Estonian, just to underline that this is a small nation, that it has its own language, that is just somehow lost between these big territories and seas and dark cold land. It's actually -12 outside and very beautiful winter weather outside. So it's a true northern -12 degrees outside right now. So it's a beautiful dark northern weather outside.
Okay. So then you're really looking forward for the last 2 beers because you need this kind of oil to go outside, yeah? We had winter in the last couple of days, so we had snow in Vienna, which is quite good, especially for the kids during these lockdowns. And we had -2, -3, and today we had +10 degrees.
Oh.
So it's kind of, it's weird. But I would say, people are waiting for the first beer. So I would say let's start with the first beer of the evening. It was not the first beer which was ever brewed, but it's this beauty, and it's called
Virmalised.
So then,
Virmalised, meaning Northern Lights in Estonian.
oh, okay.
So that's what you see also on the label.
From a northern brewery, the Northern Light. That will be the first beer.
We are not so common as would be Iceland or north of Finland, but it's rather common that it's coming. It's rather like actually like a late winter that it's the most likely. Like March is a good chance for us to see Northern Lights.
But I would say, especially in the beer world, you made Estonia really popular, in the beer world, because I'm pretty sure that every single beer lover or beer geek knows, especially the reason are you, they know Estonia, and it's really close connected in the beer world with Põhjala, I would say.
Thank you for this compliment.
No, yeah, you're more than welcome. So, label, Northern Light. Who is making the artwork for the labels? Design?
Actually, he's our partner, because as Chris and our head designer Marke, they're both partners at the brewery. So the guy is a good friend of ours. He's a young guy now in his early 30s. He was in his mid 20s when we started. Young, talented designer, and he's been doing every single label, starting with our logo. He's been behind of every visual of Põhjala you see, except of illustration when we had the doppeldancer, the wrestlers. So this was friend of his. But otherwise, every visual is made by one guy. So I think this gives a great consistency of all the art and visual work. So there's like a connected ideas through the labels and the lines, and we are very proud of our visual language, and it's all thanks to one guy that is almost impossible. He's not around, but even if he would be so shy that he would not want to be tracked here. But when you come to the Põhjala tap room, hopefully maybe in coming years, he's often around. He lives close by. But yeah, Marke, look him up. He's also on Instagram by the same name. He's great, fantastic guy. He's already bashing me like I'm talking too much about him, but yeah, we're very grateful to have one designer from since beginning. So what is it?
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that also speaks for the company. That Chris is joined you at the beginning, and he's still there. The artwork guy is still there. So that speaks really for the company. So now we're coming for the beer, and the first question already is: when the guys pour the beer, should they also put in the settlement, so from the bottom, or should they keep it in the bottle?
No, we think that it's perfectly okay to pour it. It's basically there's a tiny bit sometimes of protein that will settle out in some of the bottles, but it's not yeast or shrub or anything like that. It shouldn't affect the flavor of the beer at all. If it does, it's in a slightly positive way, to be honest. We're in this brewery. We're not filtering aggressively or anything like that. We run all of our beers through a nice, simple centrifuge, which just separates yeast from the beer. So sometimes that can lead to like a little bit of things dropping out in the bottle. But yeah, there's nothing bad about them at all.
So Peter left, and now we can talk about the beer because he cannot interrupt us. So Virmalised, when we smell it.
Mm-hmm. So we normally feel like we're getting a little bit of this sort of mango, pink grapefruit, hints of like tropical fruits in that sense. A little bit of like white wine and stone fruits as well. And then there's like hints of those biscuity malts. How about yourself? What are you getting from it in the nose?
I'm getting also this biscuit maltery thing, and then I completely agree. This winery stone fruit. So it's really kind of freshness. So it smells and brings out really freshness out of the glass. So it's one of my favorite beers. But before we taste it now, there was a big change on this beer, huh?
Yeah, it's something something that we rolled out a little bit ago. That we wanted to sort of update Virmalised a little bit for the modern world with our new brewery, because we've basically been brewing the same recipe ever since we started with our own brewery in 2014, and kind of our own tastes and craft beer had changed a little bit more around that. So what we wanted to do is we swapped out one of the base malts from there. Instead of like a British style pale malt, which gave a lot of like caramelly, toffee flavors, that we went with a little bit of a lighter sort of Pilsner malt, which just allows, in our opinion, it allows the hops to shine through a little bit more. You get that sort of subtle biscuity character from the malt. And as much as anything else, it allows a little bit more consistency as well, because the pale malt, we were one of the only sort of larger customers buying it from our maltsters, and we love our maltsters. They're from Finland, just across the pond from us. So it's as local as we can get, basically. And you know, eventually we were kind of like, we were seeing a little bit of drift, but the Pilsner malt is always a fantastic spec, and it just lasts and holds up that little bit longer, letting the hops shine through a bit more, letting the beer age a little bit better. So it's, for us, we most likened it when we were drinking it out of there, from the bottle and from the tap room upstairs. We were imagining that, well, what we were really reminded of is this is what it's like drinking Virmalised straight from the tank before it gets bottled. And we were really wanting to kind of share that with everyone as well, everyone else as well. It does lead to a little bit of a difference in flavor, especially some of the caramel notes are diminished. But we really felt like the overall experience is just more as if you're with us here, which is what we were looking for.
Exactly. It's just to add a little bit from a commercial perspective is that
Wait, Peter, first we have to take the first sip, and then you can tell us. People are waiting here in Vienna, in Austria. We're waiting for them. Cheers, guys. Thanks again.
Cheers. Cheers. Cheers.
36.
When we got the first batch of the new recipe, then we really don't notice it, because there was some miscommunication. But then I get a client on the phone and he told me, no, that's not the right beer. Yes, it's a completely different beer. And then I got on phone with Peter, and Peter then explained me the whole story. And then I told him, okay, yeah. And for me, it makes sense, because as Chris told us, it should be really a hop-forward beer, and get out a little bit of the maltiness, bring more hop flavor up to the nose and to the aroma, which makes sense. But it also shows, on the other hand, that especially those guys, they were really knowing what they are drinking, because they got it first in the glass, and that's not the beer we know, And so it also shows that people are sometimes connected with a brewery, with the beer, and they really know what they're expecting. And now you changed it. But now, Peter, you can go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
I just wanted to add that one of the changes was to because, like I said, the commercial aspect of it is that we put 9 months on the bottle, best before, and sometimes people get it in the 6 month of the beer consumption, and with this new recipe update, we are delivering more hops and more fresher beer, more fresher taste, more of that beer. So very honestly to say, the previous recipe was fantastic in the first 2-3 months, but then later, in the 6th or 7th month of the beer, it wasn't exactly. It fell much quicker. So this recipe allows the hops to shine through much longer, and so in these conditions, then when you get it a little bit later or whatever, hopefully always beer kept cold and good conditions.
Yeah.
But, beer has its own life, and the more pace of whatever we were doing, it was great in the first, but now it's like Chris said, more not sustainable, but consistent.
No, it's more stable, and the pressure. Maybe you took out the pressure from the malt body on the hop body, on the hop profile, which makes sense now, when we get this explanation. For me, it wasn't a really bad thing, because I got the explanation, and then I got the clearness, why you made this change of the malt recipe. But Chris, coming back to you, tell us a little bit production-wise, what kind of hops you're using?
Yeah, so this is, as I say, it's one of the oldest recipes that we have. It's always had slight tweaks, but never anything major until changing the malt bill, really. But this one is using one of our absolute favorite American hops, Citra. And we're also using Azaka, which gives this sort of the pink grapefruit character. We absolutely love that hop. We literally can't get enough of it, unfortunately, but that's how it goes. And Citra is bringing this like strong mango and hints of citrus in there as well, reinforcing it. And then we've also got both Amarillo and another hop called Yellow Sub in there, and those are both adding that, reinforcing this sort of citrusy character, like the hints of tangerine. The Amarillo, especially since we added that, it's got this fantastic sort of little tropical note in there that you're maybe picking up, and it reinforces the stone fruit character that we're getting from the aroma as well. So it's not the most aggressively dry hop beer that we've ever done. We'll be getting onto that a little bit later on in the tasting. But this is kind of what we feel is a little bit of like a fusion between the older school way of doing IPA, the West Coast style, and a little bit more of the newer style, where like we're hopping it a little bit more than we would have done a few 10 years ago. But that's all just for the good in terms of aroma and flavor, in our opinion.
Fair enough. So it was one of the first beers, but it wasn't the first beer which was ever made. What was the first beer ever made?
This one that is coming later on the tasting is EXO, the aged in cognac barrels. But just the basic was the very first beer we ever brewed. And this was when we got fond of and interested in craft beer. We realized that actually Baltic Porter was, very most likely originating from Estonia or the surrounding areas. So it's very much our own style. So it was very much planned out that we want to kick it off with that news to the public. And it was very connected with a personal desire, because one of the big things that we all got into craft beer was that we did not feel that there's enough thick and sticky dark beer on the market to our wanting. Okay. Or something that we have tasted elsewhere, and then when we realized that we're actually coming from the country that is as a big part of creating that whole dark beer story, we wanted to be the pioneers to deliver the news for the public, the local public, which was the case, and beyond. Okay,
so that was then 2013, if I'm right, when you launched this beer?
The timeline of Põhjala is that we met with Chris in April 2012, and the first beer of Põhjala as a gypsy brewer was released January 2013.
And it was
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And where was it brewed?
It was a small brewery right outside of the Tallinn with a brew kit of 600 liters.
Oh, okay.
It was this brewery used to make all this Slavic Russian style of beers, and when we went there because we agreed that we will be brewing, and then when they saw what we are doing, they said we're doing all wrong. This is not how it's done. It's
good story.
Why do you put so much malt?
A little bit about the industry in Estonia. How many breweries are there at the moment?
At the moment, the number has gone a little bit down. We have had our own closures in the past 2 years. Not even despite COVID. So I wouldn't say that much of the last year. It already happened earlier. But now I would say we're talking about 40 active craft brewers, which have their own equipment. Half are gypsies. So and the country about 1.3 million people.
And back in 2013?
we were, I think, back in 2013, we were the very first brewery to release Estonian craft beer. But when we opened our own brewery in spring 2014, we were the third craft brewer to open, but they all opened it within 6 months. So we were in the very first wave of Estonian craft brewing. That's for sure.
Okay.
And to be honest, all the naming of the brewery, Estonian, the first beers, very much Estonian. We were not fantasizing too much about export. We were all like, we want to do good on our own home market and, tell the craft beer story and be, I'm not saying dominant, but, really, we are a bit like athletic minded in that sense. When we do something, we want to do really good.
Okay.
And I think it's nothing bad about it.
Okay.
And then it all happened that people started to pay attention and it all evolved naturally.
Maybe you were the reason, huh? Because
it's like I said, explained. Põhjala is a group of talents. So it's nothing to do with one person here. It's like we are like a stool with many legs. You take one away.
But you gave the brand kind of a face international.
In that sense, yeah. I have a pleasure to be working as a brand ambassador, and I love it. And yes, I've been very active from day one because I was the one. I could be actively involved with Põhjala from day one. So I was running my own time.
Cool.
So yeah, it was. Whoa! You took me back to memory lane. I'm very excited now.
Back in those days, it was normal for all of us to travel. Yeah. There's a question coming. What means cheers or prost in Estonian?
Terviseks.
Coming from a Scotsman.
Terviseks.
Yeah.
So, terviseks.
Terviseks. It means for good health. The direct translation is that, but that's what we say. When we cheer, then we wish each other good health.
Gesundheit, healthiness.
Exactly. Yeah. It is actually direct translation of Gesundheit.
Yeah.
Okay. Prost.
Prost.
Okay. There are so many things I want to know and we can talk about. But now we're going to the next beer.
All right.
And the next beer, if I remember right, was the first New England beer out from the new brew kit.
Yeah, that's correct. This was our first sort of foray into the hazy world. And it's, as you say, from the new brew kit, this is the first time that we went into hazy IPAs was when we got into our new place in early 2019, realistically. And that might seem like quite far away. The haze craze started already years before that. But we always want to do something like as best as we possibly can. And we try and do as much research as we can. And we just look into what's needed. And we didn't want to do pardon the language, but we didn't want to do a half-assed version of a hazy IPA. So we knew that we needed a couple things to be right. We needed good water. We needed good yeast. These are things that it doesn't matter what beer style you're doing. They're always important for a Echtzeit and for a hazy IPA. And we knew that the time that we can best do that is when we get to this place, when we have full control over a lot more of our brewing. And it took a little bit of dialing in this beer. But we're very happy with the results in terms of we've got a hazy IPA that we have year-round available on the shelves all the time. And personally, I love it. I think for most of us here, it's become one of our most drunk beers after work. It's just ticks that perfect box of sort of extremely aromatic, extremely tasty, and it's just a pleasure to drink.
The base is different.
But it's gone on to sort of ignite a real passion for these beers within us. This may have been the first one, but it's absolutely not the last one, because it's something that we've been like exploring a lot over the last year. Even with the sort of the COVID times and the reduced bar trade, we've still been experimenting with them all the time.
Before we come back to the beer, Peter, is again your kind of thing, label and name?
I mean, when you think of the previous beer was Northern Lights, when do you see them? Where do you see them? You look up
in the sky.
So it was. I mean, with our IPA game, we keep looking up. So Northern Lights up there, Cosmos, space up there, and the label is for up anybody's imagination. Is that the Mars or is that something else? I mean, but for us, I mean, it's a little bit like play with the. I mean, the hop stick. I mean, not hops have effect on you. They in that sense they take you high. In that way, they calm you down. In that sense, just like calm you down and look up. All is good. And so it's just reminding that moment of life. It's like when you take that beer, just look up and take a moment to relax.
Yeah,
exactly. Cool. There is X.
Prost, Gesundheit.
Yeah.
So Chris, tell us a little bit.
Yeah, so this beer, again, when we're talking about the aroma, this is going to be the first thing. That's a fantastic glass for this beer as well. Yeah. The IPA glass is really beneficial for these kind of beers. There's so much stone fruit to me. This is full on peach IPA, apricots everywhere. It's very strong in that. There's a little bit of white grape as well, a little bit of passion fruit in the aroma too, and that's all coming from the choice of hops that we're using here. So this one, whilst the Virmalised is pretty much all American hops, then this one is kind of exploring a little bit more around there, a little bit of the newer wave as well. So this one is pretty heavy on Mosaic, which is giving this sort of hitting this peach notes. It's hitting that sort of slight berry notes in the aroma. We're using Galaxy in there because the beer is called Cosmos. How could we not? But also it's one of our favorite hops from Australia. It's just delivers these massive passion fruit aromas, these big, like almost Riesling aromas as well, in some sense as well. I always get from it, like little hints of diesel and that. And then we're also backing that up with Citra and some El Dorado. El Dorado is another fairly small variety of American hop, but it's like this big candy fruit characteristic in there. It's a really special hop for us. Named after the city of gold because it was so hard to find back in the early days. It's a little bit easier now, but we still kind of love it. It's just delivers such an incredible aroma, and you'll be tasting more of that in the next beer that we have actually, which is a bit of a love affair to that, as well as some others. In terms of taste, it's 5.5 ABV, so it's a little bit of a step down in ABV than Virmalised, but the body is still sort of quite big in there as well. We're using different types of wheat and oat in that to kind of provide a nice sort of chewy mouthfeel that kind of lingers in there, and the wheat is adding this little extra character to it, this little like fresh, zesty lemon touch that plays so nicely with those hops. That's what this beer is about for us. And as you can see, whilst it is hazy, it's not like you can still see a shine through it. It's normally what we're looking for with our hazy IPAs. It's like they don't need to look like straight up orange juice. We like them still to look like beer, just a little bit hazier, because it's coming from the yeast. It's coming naturally. It normally will stay no matter how long this beer is held as well. It's not like if you leave this beer in the shelf for 4 months, 5 months, then it'll start dropping out because it's just yeast. This is actually permanent haze created from hops and yeast.
But as you told before, this centrifuge is really important for that kind of beer styles, that you can get it always in the same stable, color-wise, haziness, this, and that's something, which not really any brewery, so not many breweries have the power to get her own centrifuge, and that's absolutely important for that kind of beer styles. Yeah.
And it was quite interesting for this style as well, because when we were talking to our friends, like other half, Wurstvjacek, Verdant, we were kind of approaching them at first as like, okay, we want some advice, we want some help. Like, we have a centrifuge, we kind of still want to run our beers through it, expecting like, oh, don't do that. But no, everyone was like, well, of course, we do it to all of our beers, and we very quickly realized that that it's not something that we want to avoid on these, but it's actually beneficial because, as you say, it kind of keeps them stable, it keeps them consistent, it keeps that nice character. You're not getting chunks of yeast, you're getting just that pure hoppy aroma and character, and that's what we want these beers to be about. So yeah, I completely agree. You're right there.
And Chris,
in that sense,
tell us a little bit about your new baby. So what kind of size, what kind of system you got?
So it was quite a difference from our previous one. Our previous one was an American-built, almost fully manual brew house, Premier stainless, used by a load of our friends across the world. Fantastic brew house for what we wanted. But when we moved over here, then we needed a bit more automation, a bit more consistency, and a bit more possibilities. So we actually went for a German-made one from Rolec that can brew. Our previous one did 1,500 liters at a time, and this one can do 5,000 liters at a time, roughly. But it's not just in the volume; it's also about what you're doing with it. So we kind of took all of the lessons. We brewed a lot of crazy, silly beers, even at our old brewery. And sometimes the craziest ones were the ones that we liked the most. So we wanted to, with our new brew house, we wanted to be able to do everything we could do in the old place. We didn't want to say, oh, we want to rebrew this beer from 6 years ago where we did this thing, but we just couldn't technically do it. We wanted to be able to do all of that by default, like if we needed to. And that's also been amplified, like the way that we can add the hops, that we can extract the character from them is just so much more controlled. We can get a better sort of malt profile out of the beers we're doing. We can get more caramelization and thickness from our dark beers, and then we'll ferment it nice and clean with our own grown up yeast. Then we'll ferment nice and cool. We'll centrifuge. We'll run it through bottling line, and eventually maybe more. And yeah, that's about the shakes of it. We wanted to take everything that we could do in the past, but do it better.
Okay, it's quite exciting. So Birgit is asking, maybe there's a question for you, Chris. Does wheat influence the color of the beer?
Yes, absolutely. For one, it helps promote a haze, but it's also wheat is quite a bit naturally lighter than barley. It's about half as dark. It's about half the color of barley. So where a lot of this beer's lightness is coming from, when you compare it with, say, Virmalised, you have the haze one, first of all, but then you also have, so
it's more golden. It has more gold.
Exactly. Yeah. It just looks lighter. And a lot of that is coming from the slight additions of wheat that we do there.
And it's more shiny, it's more bright,
Yes, exactly.
And how big is the production? So how many hectoliters were produced last year? That's a question. Maybe you can answer this as well, Chris.
That is a good question. We were around about 1 million liters last year.
Okay.
Around about.
Okay.
We always would. We have room to grow in this place. Like we wanted to make this our forever home. So when I'm talking about the barrel room, we have room to grow here, and we have room to grow over there as well.
This is one aspect I wanted to add, that when we tripled in a way of our brew house from the previous place, it was intentional that we kind of missed a step. because when you invest into stainless steel, it is a little bit making sense to take a bigger pan that you were planning to, because you might see soon that this pan is too small. So we wanted to get a really big pan that we know that we're safe for a while.
Yeah.
And to be very honest, I really hope that people can come and visit us here, because we do have this tap room you can actually see in your own eyes, because we have a brewery tours when weather allows again and conditions. But we are very lucky to have scored this beautiful location, just 15-20 minute walk from Tallinn city center in an old shipyard. So we are actually an old, they were used to make parts for submarines in this building.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's an old submarine factory we're located at.
And it makes completely sense to get a bigger brew house,
Exactly. So now we're set for a long time, and we are inviting you to visit our home now for a long, long time.
Okay. So
we'd still like million liters, like maybe more comparable to the consumer. We are not a huge brewery. It's even compared to the craft brewers, we're still small brewery.
Yeah. Don't make you too small, guys. But how big is production-wise Estonia when it comes to beer? How many hectoliters were produced last year in Estonia? Give us a roughly idea.
The last year is, you mean just last year, the year we finished?
Yeah, 2019, how many hectoliters?
It's around, we sell more than half, like 60-70% we sell abroad. What's your question?
No, the question is the total production of the country. Production of Estonia.
No, it's about 120 million liters. Or some consumption of beer is about over 100 million liters here.
And production?
I would say it's 95% of beer consumed is local.
Okay. So now you misunderstood. My question was, you produced 1 million liter back in 2019. And my question is, how many hectoliters did all the breweries produce last year in Estonia?
That's 120 million with all the brewers.
Okay.
Yeah.
120 million liters.
Yeah. But this is produced.
Yeah.
And again, even the big brewers, they export a lot.
Yeah, and then it's about 120. No, 1.2 million liters. It's 1.2 million hectoliters.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Austria produced last year 9.6 million.
Oh wow. Okay.
So production-wise, we're in a really good way, and also consumption is quite high. We're in the second place after the Czechs, so the Austrians really know. But I only was curious, because you told us there are 40 breweries at the moment, 40.
But the craft brewers, I would say the craft brewers held about I would say between 4 and 5% of the market, somewhere there. It has grown significantly in last 3 years, I would say. So we have because, like I said, 40 craft brewers and we and few more are very heavily exporting, but most of those 40 are selling locally.
Okay. I only have to make some notes.
Yeah, we used to talk about craft beer as like 1% of the total market, but it's definitely come leaps and bounds since then, which is great.
The talking about the influence of craft beer market is that all the big brewers have the craft beer line.
They're coming out and producing the same. There's a funny question coming out. In the new brewery, there's a sauna. Who came up with the idea to open a sauna in a brewery?
This is not the original. This is a kind of communal thinking, because I think one of the first nights that when Chris landed in Estonia, we took him into sauna. So he got familiar with because in Estonia, sauna is not something luxury. This is a very common part of life, Chris has a sauna in his apartment. I have a sauna in my apartment.
Okay.
So on top of the brewer's house, we are not bragging, but it's just like a very, very common part of our life and culture. And this is it's a little bit slippery road, but Estonia is one of the least religious countries in the world.
Okay.
But sauna is our church.
Okay.
and you know what? We go there, and we mostly be there silent, you know. And then even just like without words, you know, things have been exchanged and, you know, sold and called. Anyway, sauna is not in the brewery, but it's between the brewery and the restaurant. So it's actually free for rent. So when you come visit us, you can have a brewery tour, then you can have a sauna, and then you can have a dinner. So you can have a whole package with us.
Well, that's perfect. So listen, guys.
And yeah, it's a beautiful sauna because the steam room has a big window looking at the park that is next to us. So it's a steam room with a window. And I've been to Austria, and I know the love of saunas and spas in Austria. So it's, you know, please, welcome.
No, that sounds really interesting. I think that some people are already planning a tour to Estonia, you know, making a brewery tour, going to sauna. But then a question is coming out, how is it possible to get the beer from the tap room into the sauna? No.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I mean, because the thing is that we have a shop downstairs when you walk in. Then we recommend that you buy your beers from the shop to go, because there's a bridge, because they're a little bit more expensive in tap room. But this is possible. You can order food and the beers from the tap room to sauna. And
in Austria, I think it seems that everything is possible in Tallinn, especially at the brewery. So brewery tour, sauna, go down to the store, take your beer, and then go for a dinner to the tap room, which is
exactly the whole package.
What?
The whole great package, you know.
So the whole great package, yeah, that's true.
Great,
that's a really great
pleasures
package.
of life, food, drinks, and the waters.
When we talk about the tap room now, what kind of food you are offering there? Is there kind of beer and food pairing? Is this something you guys are doing, or is it more or less there's a burger, or it's something really local focused?
No, it's the food is Texas barbecue.
Okay.
And it is imported in a way as craft beer, but it started from again from our own love that there wasn't excellent barbecue place in town, so filling a gap on the market. And secondly, it is not very too original, but all the smoked and fatty meats go well with beer, and you know they help with the whole experience and bring the people together that love the same thing. So basically, as the whole brewery idea started from the grading for the great dark beer, so now we wanted to bring really great smoked meats into town. And me and then one of the partners, we went to Texas and had a tour there, and befriended with a chef who helped us to find not to find, but we had a local chef who he trained. So we have a really like a great Texas consultant behind all the barbecue the barbecue part. But Michael Holman, our head chef, the chef at the tap room, you know, he's very talented on his own. He's has spent great time in Japan, in Canada. He's from Canada and has spent 6 years in Canada, in Japan, sometime in Sweden. That's how we ended up through Sweden to Estonia. And now he's been with us 2 years, and he just bought the apartment a few months ago, and hoping he will be as long as Chris will be around. So
okay, cool.
So it will be great food. There is so many places around town that are specializing, showcasing the local cuisine and the nuances. We really didn't want to bring something to the table that was already there. So we wanted to fill the niche that would be fitting well better with the beer, and wasn't really there in the Tallinn market.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So I would say it's time for the next beer.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it. We're gonna be like you. Sorry, we're pouring some away, but we started before you guys.
No, it's okay. It's fine. So.
Yeah. So this beer, the Wind Forecast. This is a pretty great beer to be showcasing because this is one of our pretty hazy double IPAs. This in particular is a collaboration with Wurden from the UK. Oh, thank you very much. So this is where I'm saying as well, with the Cosmos being like our first hazy one that we've done, but far from our last. This is sort of an expression that we keep looking at. You can immediately see a difference in this one and the previous one. And again, this is running through the centrifuge, so it's all nice and stable. Yeah, exactly. But this is with more than double the amount of hops in the dry hop there. In total, almost 3 times the amount of hops. This is brewed with a pretty simple base of like the Pilsner malt with local spelt flakes and also with oat malt. And we find that it works really, really nicely as a little base for that. So this is also pretty funky because it's using a hop that was brand new to us, which you're probably picking up in the aroma from the expression there. This is, as we say in the bottle, this is with Sabro, this is with El Dorado, and this is with a little bit of Citra and Galaxy. A really nice hop combo that we both both us and Verdant really, really love generally. But the Sabro is one that's quite new to us, and it brings this sort of almost coconutty pina colada like aroma to it. It's a very, very interesting hop that just provides stuff that you don't get otherwise. It's a variety that's American, but it is not imported from Europe like a lot of their other hop varieties are and just grown there. This is actually one that is sort of native and wild to the country itself. We've only started playing with them as brewers in the last couple of years, but they're extremely interesting, very exciting hops.
Yeah. So first question I have, or maybe also other people has, we had a tasting with Verdant in December.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great, of course, especially when you're into this kind of hazy New England IPAs, pale ales. But then it pumped up, that people were asking about collaborations. Mm-hmm. And they told us, listen, there is not really a reason for us to do collaborations because everyone wants to do a collaboration with us because they want our name on their labels because then they know it's going to sell immediately. Mm-hmm. And I already had in mind that you guys did this collaboration. And the question is now, how did you made to do this collaboration? Because they told us, when we do a collaboration, then it must be something we can learn from each other, we can exchange ideas, because for us it's not important to get our name on a label, but the most important thing is to get exchangings of ideas and of techniques. So how did you guys manage to get them on the table to brew a beer together?
Well, I think I can probably pull back the curtain a little bit more. We've been a little bit coy about that beforehand. But I mean, for one, we're very good friends with one of the guys who's at Verdant now. We have been for a long, long, long time. So, it seemed it was a pretty organic and natural topic to bring up. But these are guys who we've been swapping beers with every now and then as well, because we're very strong in the dark beers. This is not a dark beer, of course, but what we feel is our philosophy towards collaborations is exactly the same. It should be a true collaboration. It should be learning. You shouldn't just be brewing something after one email with someone. You should be swapping knowledge, learning how you can be doing things better, each raising each other's game. So for this one, we took a lot from them in terms of how we can look at our hazy IPAs. And this is not the only beer in this series, because coming out from them is going to be another one, which is a dark beer that's taking a lot of inspiration from our base, and other beers that we do, this sort of strong, dark stuff. They just wanted to get an idea from us about how we do it and maybe learn something from there. So this was not a simple collaboration of like, let's do a beer together. Yeah, sure. What hops do we use? This one and this one. This was exchanging tips, saying we do it this way. Oh, we do it this way. How come you do it this? How come you do it this? This was like a true collaboration in that sense.
There's a beer coming out in coming weeks, collaboration. Because I add the aspect that this beer is our very first, and also first for Verdant, that is our first Zoom collaboration. Because this beer was obviously brewed during the COVID era that we couldn't travel, because very much the base of the collaboration process, well, always is a friendship, just more than just a commerce. You know, there must be more. You know, there's a friendship and there's a true desire to learn from each other. And we've been very honest here. This beer is the best showcase what they're strong at. And I think we are both showing both as a brewers, you know, them as a mentors, and we as a brewers, you know, that we can brew based on these nuances, and vice versa. Because, like Chris said, they are going to be releasing. I think we can pull the curtain as well on the name now, because it's coming like right now next week. So this one is a wind forecast. So they will be releasing the shipping forecast, and them being from one of they're very close to one of the legendary shipping ports of UK. One of the deepest ports in I think the deepest port in Europe is Falmouth. They're close at. So this has been a learning curve for both of us, and I hope it's been fun experience for both of us. And for us, we are not. When you look at our track on the collaborations, you know, then it's not massive, and we're I don't want to say picky, but you know, there has to be really a true relationship behind that release, the true, you know, true collaboration.
No.
Like personally as well, one of the really fun things for me is the best compliment about this beer that I've ever received from someone was that it tastes like a Verdant double IPA, which for me was like a massive sort of touch of the cap. And I'm also really hoping that when people are tasting the shipping forecast, the one that they brewed at their place, I'm really, really excited and hoping maybe someone will say, you know, this tastes like a Põhjala beer, because then we know we've nailed each other's collaborations. We've made a beer that would make each other proud, which is awesome. That's the best part.
Cool. So then I must see and try to get hands on some of their beers, because what we got short before Christmas was their export stout, which was also really nice, and I think it was also one of the first dark beers they brewed in the last couple of months, you know.
Yeah.
Cool. But it speaks really for you, you know, that you have this great relationship with them, you know, and they exchanging ideas, you know, and techniques, which is quite an honor, you know. And they also can be proud that you are exchanging your ideas when it comes to dark beers, you know, and to all these heavy beers. So,
absolutely.
But this one, But it's already sold out, huh? It's done. This beer. Is it still available in Estonia, or is it also?
We have a few kegs, because we're not being. The bottles are sold out, but we have few kegs left for our tap room, because you know.
Keep them,
But yeah, it was definitely successful sellout, and then one of my personal favorites from the last year's IPA game.
Yeah. Some of you may have tried the Singing Sands we did with Lervig that we released around the end of summer. That was another hazy double IPA, focusing exclusively on Citra from America. That hop. And this is kind of like a logical next step in that sense. And I like that every time we've done it, we've learned a little bit more. A little bit more. So yeah.
The whole life is an experience, you know. So
absolutely.
Why not brewing? Peter, Tallinn Craft Beer
Weekend.
Yeah, weekend, not week. Yeah, it's a weekend. It's only a weekend. It was founded also by you guys back in 2015. Was the first.
Exactly. Because this was very logical. We knew we knew what's the basics, but you know what's all the good and great parts of the craft beer world and the brewery as soon as we founded the brewery, we opened a little bar. We started a festival. We wanted to take part in all of the aspects of this great craft beer life
movement. Yeah.
And yeah, it's the, I would say, buffet style of festival. So you buy, so to say, expensive ticket, but you come in, you get the free little glass, and all the beer is free. You get a little leaflet. You have ability to have this all on your phone. You come in, and it's very nice and geeky festival in that nice way. It's like people come together, exchange ideas. They have the plans made. Of course, we have seen these little lines coming up, that the popular beers run out, but this is natural part of this festival. So it's food trucks outside. We tried a few years in the beginning with the bands. We have stopped that. So it's all purely good beer. You go outside, you tank up with good food, have some water everywhere, free water. Very, very, very great atmosphere, and this coming year, we usually have been having it first weekend of May, which is very unlikely that we can do it, but we will not cancel it. We will try to hold it in the summer months, sometimes in August, outdoors, something like that, and not sure that we can attract that many as overseas brewers in that sense, like American, but I think we can, even with our European friends, we can throw out a great festival. And in that sense, we're hoping that we can hold some sort of event in this summer months. But going back to 22, then we again want to hold it the first weekend of May.
Okay.
To be honest, I should look at the exact dates, but first weekend of May is the best you can remember.
Makes sense. So, and in the last couple of years, were there already a brewery from Austria invited?
Peevok has been at one edition, but there's quite a big amount of brewers. We have a lot of friends, and we want to be offering a lot of beers from different. So it's always swapping, and definitely for sure Peevok is definitely coming back, and hopefully we'll.
No, but the question was more like yes. If there's a really good brewery in Austria which you already invited, which maybe the people doesn't notice that there was already a brewery at your festival invited. So that was the question, not if anyone is coming back, but people was there.
It's a little bit. The festival is a little bit based like we said about the collaborations. We tried to see it as it's a big party for a group of friends of brewers as well. So it's often that there has to be some sort of a personal relationship between that before we get to this party, because this is really a family feel that we have created here. It's 1,500 people, 50 brewers. So that is a thumb rule, because we have the same location, so we cannot invite more brewers or people. So it's it's a fixed boutique festival. That's how I kind of call it.
And is it possible to get tickets?
Or
it's difficult for.
Usually when we announce the event, we sell out in one day.
Okay. So listen, guys, that means then really, if you want to be part of the festival, maybe this year, no one knows what's going to happen, but at least next year, then really make a note in your calendar. There's a festival in May for sure in 22, but you must be really, really fast because it's sold out.
I'm talking too much, but I know, Marcus, you did your bus to the Who Cares Festival. Maybe we can do a little group, because we can reserve you. Then, let's talk about it. Maybe you can bring some group of people to get to know, because we would be really proud to show what we have going on here. And this is for people who don't know much. It's very international. From 50 brewers, only 10 is from Estonia, 40 is from abroad, many from America, and also from the visitors. I would say over half of people to the festival also come from other countries around,
So thank you, Peter, for the offer. That means then maybe soon we will have Beer Lovers Travel Agency. We will see. Yeah. Why not? You know,
Not a bad idea.
No, it's a great idea. You know, it's a great idea, and of course, I think I easily can find 10 people which are willing to follow me to Estonia. So we will think about it, and of course, we will announce it if we really do it.
Awesome to have you.
Then it will be public, and then everyone can be part of it.
Fantastic.
Cool. Back to this beer. Short question: is there something you can recommend to pair with, food-wise, with this wind forecast?
Very honestly, I have never had it with food. You know, it's kind of a snack on its own.
It's a meal on its own. You know, it's a meal on its own. You don't have to pair it with anything. You know.
Would cheese be a bad recommendation, or it's like too much strong and strong, or?
No. When you try to pair it with cheese, then it should be a really smooth and easy cheese. You know, if it's too intense, then it will be on the
There
side.
you go. Exactly. I think you have more experience.
So really, don't pair it with a really intense full cheese.
Like a brie, or?
Can be, you know, but not. If the brie gets too warm, that it gets also really intense, you know. So, as I told before, you know, leave it alone, you know, because it's a meal. It's kind of a meal on its own, you know.
With peanuts. We recommend this beer with peanuts. That's our food recommendation.
Okay, yeah. You can also choose cucumber sticks or something like this, you know. Because they are tasting like water, so it's okay. Birgit is asking, how long does it take from brewing to bottling this beer?
This particular one, this was around about 3.5 to 4 weeks, and that's pretty standard for our sort of bigger double IPAs or hazy IPAs. We normally expect that every beer in our tanks takes at least 3 weeks. Many of them are much longer. We sometimes have them in there for 2 to 3 months, depending on the beer. Depending on the barrel as well, as we'll go into later, then beers can be significantly longer. But yeah, this is a little less than a month. We believe with good healthy fermentation, good dry hopping practice, and a nice centrifuge, then you can. It's not super fast, you know, but we give it as long as it deserves.
No. Perfect. Great. So now we're going to the fourth beer. We need this now to clean our palate a little bit. We need this now before we got into this black beauties. Next one is orange gose.
So yeah,
fantastic for the cleansing.
Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that is like a real benefit to this beer and the gose style in general, is that they're just, you know, I think a lot of us at beer festivals as well are the same, or at bars sometimes, is in between a lot of these big intense beers, you'll have a sour just to clean the tongue, just to rinse things off. And orange gose is pretty much as the name describes. This is one where we just wanted to make a super citrusy, refreshing, slightly sour, slightly salty wheat beer, as the gose style is. You know, we took the inspiration of, we wanted this refreshment, and orange is one of the things that works really well for us. So, well, there we go. That's how you can tell that it's fruity. But yeah, it does exactly what it says on the tin. You should be immediately getting some freshly zested orange on the nose. We all of the orange zest that we use on this beer, we're zesting by hand by ourselves. It takes a little bit more work, but we really feel like the flavor and the aroma is kind of worth it.
It is fantastic smell in the brewery when the orange peeling is happening. It's filling so big space. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's fantastic smell. So all natural. And also, again, we've talked about sauna before. One of the good recommendations for the sauna beer, you know, when you come out of the sauna, it's very refreshing, you know. Pilsner or this is my favorite,
But you guys are brewing quite a lot of different Gose style beers, huh? That's quite something you really enjoy, or is it that some other markets are asking for that kind of style?
I think, to jump in quickly there, I think we really love the style, and we also really feel that it goes so well with the sourness. It helps to pair it so well with food. We've done a couple of imperial goses, like the Tuul, like the Torm, like the Brahe. And these are ones where it's just like that little bit of salt, that little bit of coriander, that little bit of like fresh sourness just really helps cut through a lot of food and works really nicely on those beers.
And the other thing is that those imperial goses, because the thing is that you mentioned we do a lot of goses, we have also imperialized them in a way that we do with our dark beers, make them like bigger. So what Chris did not mention, we have used white currants, we have used lingonberries. So the berries that we would not be able to kind of showcase in dark beer or a IPA, or they get lost. So this sour, strong, because it's salt and sour and sweet at the same time, and then you put the flavor in it. It's like when you know anything about cooking, you have so many like backbones just cooking it. So it is a very good like a platform to showcase these exclusive berries in their stronger beers, while this one is just like delivering refreshment. Because who wouldn't like the orange juice, in a way?
That's true.
Yeah. But that's actually true in the imperial goses or stuff that we're doing again more this year. And we have one that we're brewing next week, which is making use of rhubarb, which is, I think, one of our own like home garden favorites.
Rhubarb and rosemary.
Okay. That will be brewed or released next week?
Brewed next week.
Brewed. When you look at in the calendar, I think it's in March.
I will find it out.
It's March. 2 months. 2 months.
Technically wise, Chris, how this beer is made? Explain us a little bit.
Yeah. So
some secrets.
So I suppose the souring is it's not always a familiar thing as well. But what we're doing is we're brewing this as if it was a regular beer, but then we have an added step. We pump it into a separate tank where we add special souring bacteria, lactobacillus, to give that little hint of crisp sour character in there. We leave it for just overnight, and then we boil it up again to kill off that bacteria. That leaves the sourness. It doesn't have any alcohol in it at that point, so it doesn't taste like that cooked beer that maybe if you've ever accidentally heated up a beer, you'll get. And from that point on, it becomes a regular beer just with the infusion of orange zest and the orange juice. We're pretty happy with because the souring process that we use is it gives this nice little funk to the beer, this little aroma, this little taste, and it just makes it much more refreshing, much more drinkable. And as it's a gose, as I say, we use a Himalayan pink salt, the rock salt, and then we're also using a little slightly toasted coriander as well, just to accentuate all of the flavors we want to add. In this case, the orange, and it gets the infusion of orange zest during when it's being boiled, so you get this like deep flavor imbued into there. That you just don't get otherwise. And the bacteria, the lactobacillus we're using is a house-developed, our own one, based on an expertise, because we're doing quite a lot of beers. I mean, the Berliner Weisses, we're going with the same one.
Okay. So we are talking really a lot about yeast, and it's cultivated by your own. Do you guys have any lab or laboratory, or how does you control and check your beers? Is this something which you have in-house?
I thought I could give a break to Chris, but I can't because he can talk about it. Yes, we have an excellent lab. The lab to the level that we're actually outsourcing. We're getting packages from Finland. The small brewers from Finland are sending the stuff in. So we are certified. We're not ISO, but close.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, basically, that's something that we've been not from day one interested in the lab side of it, but from, let's say, day 3. And in this place, then we we expanded our lab considerably because a lot of the stuff that we've been testing ourselves, our quality checks, we used to have to in our old brewery. We had to locate it somewhere to send it to and send it, and it was a lot of hoops to jump through, to use the expression. Whereas what we wanted to do here, it's not only just like in the brewery, we wanted anything we need to do, we can do in-house, but we also wanted it so that anything that anyone else wants to do, they can send it to us. They don't have to like spend hours searching for a tiny lab in the coast of Norway or an expensive one in Finland. You know, they can send it to us. If it's beer related, we can do it. Because I mean, that's something that we really feel quality control in craft beer is so important. You know, we're all sending beer so far abroad or asking customers to spend their time, their money on us. And we want to be worthy of that every single time. So quality control is super important for us. We're pretty rigid on how we do it.
I completely agree. And then it's pretty much everything there. And then it's similar to Disneyland. For a brewer, huh? You got everything you need, you know?
Exactly. Indeed. We can check color, we can check bitterness, we can check ABV. I don't even know half of the stuff we can do there sometimes.
And you get a Rolex system, you get your own centrifuge, you get everything, yeah? So you can be really, really happy. No? Cool. Peter.
Yes.
Which was the first country ever you did export to?
Finland.
Okay.
Very logical.
It makes sense.
It could be. Very, very technically, it was Latvia because we went to the beer festival in a stage that we didn't even have a brewery.
Okay.
So because we were starting a brewery, we were already doing a lot of cheap, pilot brewing on the small kit. So we had a lot of bottles going, and we went to the festival in Riga, organized by the local craft beer enthusiasts, with just our pilot beers kind of. And but the serious export was Finland up north,
Okay. On the sea or on the country, did you sell the beer on the ferry, on the boat between Estonia and Finland, or did you really make any business, a real business on?
We did. Because the Põhjala is the name. First of all, the name Põhjala is in Finnish. You have the one little letter difference, but it has the same meaning. So they understand what it means, and it has the same meaning. And so in Finland we're quite known, and yes, the boats when they were running were a very important business for us, and we hope they return soon.
Got you. Really, it's a really superb, refreshing, perfect beer before we get to this really dark.
One more thing, Mr. Sommelier, I wanted to add that the orange gose and also especially our imperial goses, we're doing a fantastic business in the restaurants. The sommeliers love it, because they can really find the nuances to pair with the food, and people like the experience. So this is one of the sparkles that keeps us going with this thing, because especially in Estonia, Põhjala is available in very, not say high scale restaurant, but we have all sorts of restaurants. We are highly available in restaurants as well, because people who serve the drinks, the wines, the beers, they understand it, and they know and they like these.
What they're talking about, and
the type of beers is one of their favorites.
So that's something which is still not really happening in Austria, especially when it comes to sours, Gose and Berliner Weisse and all that kind of stuff,
So if anybody is listening to us who works in the restaurant industry or is a culinary person, really, we recommend, and we have from the experience, the Goses, imperial Goses, they go well with the food.
I completely agree. It really goes well, with cheese from sheep and salads and all that kind of stuff, with some fish. But the point is, that especially these well-known restaurants or well-known chefs, especially in Vienna and the surroundings, they're not really into this kind of sour at the moment, because Vienna, Austria is really well known for wine, and that will take more time to develop, That's the truth, In beer bars, easily. Summertime, Gose, Berliner Weisse, Goes, all that kind of stuff, it's going really, really well. But when it comes to food pairings into restaurants with specialty chefs, that's still hard and difficult for us here in Austria. But I completely agree.
I think it's elegant,
perfectly
elegant beer, and a very culinary suitable beer.
And I think that will change over there. Like it'll take a long time, and it'll look like nothing happens, and then suddenly, boom.
It will, hopefully, I'm with you, Chris, but especially in these restaurants, beer is always there because Austrians are used to drink beer. Mm-hmm. But the really disappointing thing is that most of the people which are going to these restaurants, they're not expecting any specialty beer.
Yeah.
They're expecting wine. White, different kind of offers, and that's then what they really need and what the people are really asking for. But I agree, it will take time. And also, those restaurants, they will figure out, how perfect beer pairs with food.
That's the thing. Just takes a few sommeliers getting excited about beers and what they can bring to the pairing table. Happens, I think.
Listen, this like maybe not for the big crowd, but why not? Again, when the planes start to fly, let's try to organize something culinary around our sour stuff, and we come out, and we would love to come back to Vienna. Chris never been, so on. I miss Vienna.
We can easily set up something, Peter.
Exactly. Let's come out and let's do that, and take the sour and the dark side. What we are gonna take next, exactly. All right. So, yes, EXO, super proud. I'll take that bottle from Christian because first of all, this is the superior version of our very first beer, the Baltic Porter, aged in elegant cognac barrels, which is a super good fit. And I'll take a chat. I'll go closer to the camera and just use it. People are sometimes giving shit about the wax when we have using. There's a reason why we call these beers cellar series, because we recommend them to hold them in your cellar for a year or two, and the wax really helps with keeping the beer in good health. Not to get the rust. And you warm it up a little bit with your palm, and you just scrape it off a little bit with your wine opener, and it's not that big of a deal, And there you go. So the wax is definitely helping with the attractiveness of the bottle, but the real reason why it's there is a practical one, but because the good old humid cellar, is not really good with the crown cork, but wax on the top protects it and helps you to age the bottle if you would desire, because this is one side of these beers. The cellar series beers, they get better in time. But Chris will tell you more.
Yeah. So the EXO, as Peter says, this is the version of our and it's one of our more complex barrel-aged beers, even though it's one that we have available a lot of the time. This is we have a couple different approaches to working with barrels and working with beer. And one of them is we take what's already there and we just turn it up gently a little bit. Mm-hmm. So if you've had it by itself, I know you have already, there's a load of those sort of red fruit characters. And you get a lot of that from cognac. So we kind of thought that this would pair beautifully with that. And cognac barrels are something that hasn't been, to my impression, explored all that much within the brewing world. There's so much more we can be doing with them. So we take this, we take our and then we age it in almost like a Solera style method of barreling. So we'll take several different batches of aged in several different batches and vintages of cognac barrels, and then we'll blend those together before refilling them and repeating the same process further down the line. It's one where it's got some beer that's been in the cognac barrels for up to 2 years, and sometimes even longer. And some of it is only just a few months old, because you want to get that sort of that balance, that cross section. You want to pull as much of the cognac flavor and as much of the beer flavor as you possibly can, because that's also important for us. It's not just that it tastes of cognac, but also that it tastes like the beer that went into it. That's very important for us in barrel aging.
But so, Chris, if I understand it right, sorry to interrupt you, it's kind of a cuvée out from different barrels.
Yeah.
You're gonna mix it, and then you age it again in one barrel?
No, a cuvée is a pretty good way to put it. So let's say the barrel's behind us. We would say empty 2 of these, and then we would refill those 2, and we'd top them up again with the previous one.
Okay.
So it's honestly, if I'm being frank, it's quite a pain in the ass to pull off over in the cellar side here, but we really feel like it gives the best of the barrel and the best of the beer.
Okay.
This is also one thing that we do for all of our cellar series beers is we print a serving temperature on them on the side underneath the description, and we really feel like these are best at these temperatures. So pulling it out of the fridge straight away is one thing, but letting it sit for a little bit longer can really help open these beers up.
It's a little bit cool in this room, so that's the reason why I'm holding the beer with the 2 hands. So I'm liking my beers, dark beers, really warm, because then I feel that they reveal the most of them, you know.
Yeah.
So please, even if you have had them from the fridge not too long ago, please hold them like that. You know, get them warm. Get them please warm, because then they will really, you know, you can feel already the difference. You know,
the truth.
That's releasing.
Give them a little body temperature, and then it will get better.
Exactly. And these are we're really proud of this beer as well, because we've been brewing this UXO and aging in barrels for a long time. We've got such good relationships with the cognac producers over in France also, that we're now at the point where we're kind of like, we're getting a hold of some of the very best barrels that they when they empty them, we get them straight away.
Wow, that's important.
Yeah, exactly. And
still some liquid is inside, you know, it's not outright, you know, it's still fresh, and that's really important, you know.
Exactly.
To the point that we have pulled cognac out of barrels.
Yeah. Since when this cellar series is existing?
Since very early on. I think the first cellar series beers was released in. We brewed Odensholm in summer. 2015 was the first beer, and it was, what was the exact style?
Rye Imperial Porter.
Rye Imperial Porter, aged in red wine barrels, by the way. And it was.
Do you remember the name?
Odensholm. Alttextil.
No, it's okay.
Odensholm. It means Odin's grave in actually ancient. It's a name of an island just off the coast from north Estonia, and Odensholm means Odin's grave in ancient Scandinavia. So by some legend, Odin was killed in Estonia and buried here.
Okay. Cool, interesting. So, but Chris, now let's talk a little bit more about the aroma and about the complexity of this beer, you know?
Yeah, so you should, to me anyway, you should also be getting, like, as well as the red fruits from the cognac, like blackberry, you should cassis, you should be getting a really strong hint of like licorice coming off the nose from this, and that's coming all from the base beer, which has got that even amplified a little bit more. There's little hints of like vinous notes. There's sort of sweet red wine on there, and the little hints of toasted malt when you actually taste it. This is a beer where it's like it's a Baltic porter, and we're brewing that in the style that we feel is as close but updated as it was, because it's the only style of beer that is local and, well, not local but native and originating from Estonia. And it's the first beer that we produced is the regular So we wanted to take it very seriously, and we wanted to say, what was the style? How would it be going? How would it be brewed if we'd kept on brewing it in Estonia before we brought it back from there, So we have this this licorice, we have these red fruits, we have that toasted malt, we have little hints of coffee in there as well. It's got a lot of complexity, but it's also extremely drinkable in my mind, because that's also very important. These beers historically wouldn't necessarily be one that you could only have a small snifter of, and that's it. They would be something that you would get warmth from. And I mean, inside this cold cellar that we're in right now, then we can kind of feel a little bit of that,
On its own, for me, like the original beer is a little bit more robust, while the cognac makes it, again, like softer, rounder, more elegant.
It changes like the sweetness a little bit. It removes a bit of the bitterness, which are all flavors you expect from a beer. But this just fuses it together.
And the point is, that still, even it's have 11.5 ABV, it's still with really high drinkability.
Yeah.
And that's
true.
The most important thing, when it comes to these barrel-aged beers, they can be really intense, that you get a bummer of alcohol, only alcohol. But this is really, let's say, balanced, it's round, it really makes...
It's a fireplace beer. You're sitting by the fireplace and you're sipping it, holding yourself back,
relaxing.
Exactly. After a nice day of skiing.
Yes.
Exactly.
No, we are in Vienna, there are no mountains and plus 10 degrees, so there's no possibility to ski. But I read something about a pop-up bar in Beijing in 2019.
Oh, yes. This was a project that it's an entrepreneur in Beijing that opened the very first craft beer bar in Beijing already over 10 years ago, El Nino. And this pop-up bar was like, he was offered a very good bar location that he did not want to take. He didn't want to let go either. So he became like, okay, maybe I can fill this bar space. I don't have to invest much, just a little bit. So every month, some importer brings me brand that I like, that we make a collaboration. So it wasn't that we went to Beijing and rented a space. It was a collaboration with a local entrepreneur. The very first, the brewery that was opening, I think, was the brewery. We were the second brewery to be filling that space. And it was November of last year, 2019. And I was the one to go there for the opening night. And I was there 2 nights. And the bar ran 1 month afterwards. It was very successful. So it had 8 taps of Põhjala beers, also several bottles. All the bar people were dressed in the local Põhjala touch. We had the special merchandise made. We had a nice, the bar was decorated the Põhjala way. I went there and I made sure it was the very last night we changed the windows because they were with the wrong logo. It was a bit of a drama, but we got it done. It was fantastic. And the Beijing is to be honest, it's, I don't want to go any political, because really I met with a beautiful, nice young people, and there was also, it's an international city, so it was a fantastic experience to have introduced our beers in one of the metropoles of the world, and for a very different, to the people with very different culture background. I think it's very intriguing and it's interesting. So I enjoyed it very much, this whole process of introducing Põhjala through this pop-up bar project. And after this weekend I spent there, it ran the whole month. And we've been in touch with a guy who was super happy. It's one of the best months he had because he has tried with several brands, and we've been in touch, and he still sells our beer in his other bars. So it wasn't like just one-off project, because it was just offered us to be fulfilling, and for us it wasn't like we invested. It was just cooperation, so everybody won in this cooperation.
Okay. And now, how does the current situation looks like? Is there still business for you in Beijing?
To be honest, yes. It's China has the whole thing started from there. They also got it sooner under control. So we have been sending continuously beer. Every 2-3 months we send the container to China as usual, and cool. The bar project was just another brick in the success story we're building.
You can be proud to send containers to Beijing. No, that's something which is not really, it's something special.
I understand. Yeah, we understand that, and we are humbled and happy about it.
Perfect. Chris, there's a question which is coming out for you. There's a brewery which is called Two in a Rocket, and they're asking, how do we achieve the super smooth mouthfeel in a dark beer like XO without getting too aggressively roasty?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that we're pretty big on is I'm anyway not a big fan of like this roasty character in the dark beers. And I think most of us in here are not as well. Sometimes we are, and there are some beers where we play around with it a lot more. But we're normally using, to achieve like the darker malts, we're using like a lot of de-bittered ones, the special varieties of the Grappa malts from Germany, to name names, as well as like paler chocolates. And then we're also layering it in with, we're not just going for like some dark malts in there for color and for roast. We're also going for a fair bit of like specialty malts, like particular types of oat, particular types of caramel malts that'll like layer on this sort of this silky smooth mouthfeel. We want to achieve a particular fermentation profile, so we're not going for like we're not chasing the ABV in a sense. If we want to hit a particular like 10 ABV, we want a particular sweetness to the mouthfeel. So we'll adjust the hopping rates accordingly, and we'll also adjust the fermentation. So we'll start at a higher gravity to end at a higher finishing gravity as well. This is, for reference, is around about 6 Plato normally, which is not very high, but I know that there are many more traditional darker beers which will finish around like 4 Plato or so, 5 Plato. But we really feel like that extra bit of sweetness kind of cuts through it. It helps you avoid like a sort of astringency that might distract from some of the other fruitier flavors that we're after. That's about what I would say there.
Thank you for the great explanation, and for the openness.
And also, like anyone who is watching who wants to know more about how we're brewing these beers, feel free to shoot me an email at chris@põhjalabeer.com. I'm always happy to share some tips and knowledge. So.
Thank you for the offer. Also maybe you can short, after our tasting, maybe you can answer some questions and put in some details and tell them, where they can find you, especially when it comes to brewing questions. Then I know that home brewers, smaller brewers really appreciate that, like you explained us before. Peter, there's a question coming up for you.
Oh.
Peter is asking, for people who want to start brewing their own beer, financially wise, how much capital and time do you need to invest for break even for the first beer in your experience? How much time and investment
I mean, this is first of all, our experience is not valid in these conditions because we started
back to 2011.
Yeah, we started kind of early on, but the very early investment to get Põhjala going was 300,000 euros. That came from 3 guys, and we got it going. And then we got the 4th guy that was our first angel investment, who would help with the first brewery really get going, and so on. By the way, the expansion. Sorry, okay, I'm finished the question, but it's hard question, because they all depends on the concept of the beer. What is the idea? What is the market condition where you want to go?
Peter,
today?
If it's too difficult, and too long, then you can find this question when you check tomorrow, our Facebook site, and then you can pick him out and can send him a personal note. That's maybe the easiest way,
The easiest answer today is like the craft beer market is oversaturated. It is not very easy to enter. So,
of course,
there are other liquids to invest right now. I think would be, but at the same time, I'm not killing the encouragement or the enthusiasm. If there's an idea, another thing that is what I'm very fond of is a local brewery. That your thing, your town, your village, your ski village, ski village brewery, for example, would be a fantastic idea. The brew pub that would cater the skiers at night, with the local beer and stories.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a longer answer, and it's I don't want to reply that. Spend too much time right now.
Peter is already asking for your mail. Maybe you'll find time tomorrow and share your email address with him. And then Peter@pohjalabeer.com. And Peter comes with 2 E's in the beginning, but you'll find my name on the website. How you write it, and you just add pohjalabeer.com. Send me your questions. Thank you. Perfect. Then there's a guy from Paris joining us.
Whoa, merci.
All right.
Remy Hock, maybe it's wrong pronounced, but Peter and Chris, what are your favorite beers beside of Põhjala? Great beers, by the way. Tres bien.
Merci.
It's a hard question.
No, but I wanna ask it easy because I have lots of favorite beers, but one beer that is like an international beer, like a mainstream beer that I have a chance, like when I go to some random city, so I like Jänner. So it's not a craft beer answer, but I like Jänner.
Yeah, it's a perfect beer, and also Jänner fun, especially when it comes to non-alcoholic beers. I don't know if you ever.
I haven't tried it.
Go for a Jänner fun.
Okay.
For a non-alcoholic pilsner, it's a go-to.
Okay.
Really.
Okay.
And Chris?
Again, I'm not going to have a particularly interesting answer here, but almost anything by Demolen or by Tool is always pretty high up on my list.
Okay.
Always interested to try that stuff.
Fair answer.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
It would be bad. Anyway.
So, Peter.
Yeah.
Before we come to the last beer of the evening, there are some rumors that something is changing at the brewery, packaging-wise.
Oh.
Can you bring some light to the darkness? Is this something which is happening, which we already then can discuss, or is it something?
Yes, the cans that.
What?
We are going into cans. Põhjala is going to can, and one moment. Please stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no, sorry for Peter, but he told us already. It's the second day that they reopened the bar, and so maybe he had some beers before, which is fine because we all love what we do. And he came out with the word cans. So
the cans are coming. The cans. We are starting with cans, and we actually have even prepared some samples for our internal.
So it's true. It's true. Finally. So hold on a little bit, Peter. So finally, it's true that you start canning your beers.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, because this is where all the brewing I feel is moving, because the can is just better for the beer. It is when we talk about the hoppy beer, when we can see the beer through the bottle, so can see the UV light. The aluminum package will protect it. And the second is much easier for the environment in terms of recycling, delivery, and so on. So it is come to our realization, perhaps could have been come to sooner, because when we opened the brewery 2 years ago, then perhaps the trend wasn't that strong than our understanding. But now we're very much feeling that this is the way for lighter and sour beers that has been taken more part of our tasting today as well. But the dark beers will remain always in the bottle.
Okay.
So this is we feel it's kind of classy. It is also, when we talk about the cellar series beers, it is a little bit more safer way to keep these beers. And yeah, like I said, a little bit more classical perhaps. And but for the more bigger part, but the more volume part, like the Pilsner, the IPAs, the sour beers, they all, I think, are better into cans. And when we talked about in the first part of the conversation about our designs, and when we talk about the canvas for the design, then this will open a kind of a new chapter for us, that we can actually describe our brand much better. So thank you, Oliver.
So Chris,
I'll give you just very. We start off with in a basic way. We will not have a printed cans, because just for the people out there, it needs a minimum order. One printed can is 400,000 pieces. So this is our Ohtu Porter. So we will bring the brand and the beer name and the beer style in the front. And this is the Pilke Pilsner. Perhaps a little bit too light to present. Like I said, we are in the preparation phases of designs, but the actual installation of the canning line starts in 1 month time, end of February.
Perfect.
Sorry.
So Chris, that means finally you got also your own canning line into the brewery. Then it's more or less everything really you need on the property, huh?
Yeah.
Then the Disneyland is ready almost.
Yeah. Let's never say that we have everything we need.
Okay, there's always something to improve, of course, but more or less.
I don't want to give him ideas.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's also in this way we really feel like we're gonna have why we did it this way around. Also, bottles first and then cans, is now we have the best of both worlds. You know, beforehand, if we'd had to go only cans, then our barrel-aged beer in there, it just wouldn't be appropriate. It just wouldn't be right yet. Maybe in the future, but just not yet. So now we're able to take it, that we're taking what we do great already and just turning it up a notch already. The hoppy beers, the light beers.
Okay. But that means then you will keep some of the light beers, of the hoppy beers into bottles, or you will completely change from bottle to cans?
Rather completely. The Mustkul Porter is most likely remain in the bottle, because it's so much of the strong of the beer that this package doesn't affect the best before of 2 years that we have been putting it on. Until up there, we feel that the can is a better protector for a beer and allowing a better best before, better quality, better experience in your glass at home.
So the heavy ones and the cellar series will stay into the bottles,
yes,
which makes completely sense. and all the rest will move to cans.
The beautiful wax remains.
Yeah.
You may have waxed cans in the past, but yeah, they just don't.
We will not do wax cans. We will not do wax cans.
Okay. Teresa is adding, this beer, this XO perfectly fits with blueberry ice cream. That's what she recommends.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
I can see that. I can see that easily.
Yeah.
Marcus, may I correct you? You keep saying XO.
What?
You just say one word. XO.
XO.
Exactly.
Not okay. XO.
Exactly.
It's a really, really nice beer. So, last beer of the evening.
Yeah, on to the final beer. So this one, Maplelicious. This is the last beer that we released from last year. It was the only thing we had coming out in December, and I feel like it was a perfect way to end the year. This is a very special beer for us because it's something that was a little bit of an experiment that we loved so much. We always have a bit of a wish list in terms of barrels that we can get a hold of. And on my wish list, pretty strongly for a few years now, have been maple syrup barrels. Barrels not used to store whiskey or anything like that, but literally maple syrup. So we were able to get a hold of some of them, freshly emptied from Vermont, and get them shipped over from the States as fast as we could. And this is a new type of barrel for us. We'd not worked with it before. So what we wanted to do is get a little bit of knowledge about that. We didn't say, okay, this beer will work perfectly in it. We thought, okay, we think this one will work great in it. We also think this one might work great in it. What would happen? Let's find out which one will work the best. And as the time went on, and we were pulling barrel samples frequently, then we just realized, like, actually, they both work really, really well. Like, one of them has this massive aroma of the maple syrup coming through from there. This caramel toffee and the pure maple syrup. And the other one, like, it's got that taste. It's got that rich, deep taste, plus the bourbony character what these barrels used to hold before the maple syrup. So we tried blending them together. And then we came up eventually with Maplelicious, which is kind of a love affair to the maple syrup. It's one where we really, really wanted to evoke this feeling when you crack open this bottle and pour it over your pancakes. So those two beers were an Imperial Stout and a Golden Barley Wine. As you can see, the Stout is pretty strongly in terms of color there. But yeah, this is one that we were extremely proud of already from the beginning. And then it was just a case of dialing in the blending aspect of it. How much of each beer do we want to put inside it?
And hopefully everyone has it warm at home. If not, then I think warm it up again. Like, very important to have it on a warm side.
Chris,
yes.
Tell me, is this something which is quite new for Europe, huh? To using maple syrup barrels to age beer inside?
Yeah, absolutely. As I say, this was on the wish list for a while. This is on the wish list because I follow quite a lot of some of the American guys and found out pretty recently that maple syrup barrels are a thing.
Okay.
And I know of only a few other ones in Europe who have been able to get a hold of some.
Okay.
They're tricky to get, and the thing is that you really, over here in Europe, we have great access to wine barrels, to cognac barrels, to Scotch whiskey barrels, but some things like that are a little bit harder to get. Whereas over in the USA, then you can just send a car up to Vermont, load up 4 barrels, no worries, you're done. But over here, if you want 4 or 5 of them, you just can't get that. You can either get a lot of them or you can't get any of them. So we were kind of willing to bring over a whole container of freshly emptied barrels, including rye whiskey barrels for the Cocoa Banger BA we were making here.
Okay.
So we had a container of barrels. We made a purchase of several barrels from America straight, and some of the maple syrup barrels were used for bourbon, and so it had like a double layer of taste And one thing is like, we see the barrels just behind us. And what was funny with this, the syrup barrels when they arrived, they had all the caramel outside of the barrels, like scrambled up, so you can actually just scrape and break off a little piece of the candy, the maple sugar outside of the barrel and get a taste of it. It was crazy. And then actually we turned them around. So many of them had actually syrup in them. So we collected about 25 liters
syrup. Okay.
That we sold up in the tap room with a split, because we have every Sunday we have all day breakfast.
Okay.
Is the menu, and so it was sold through these Sundays with the pancakes, and it was
perfect.
Super special syrup.
Yeah, cool story. Okay, so then let's go through taste this beer.
Beer.
Yeah, so I mean, this is extremely complex, but at the same time, it's also pretty straightforward. You should be getting this massive whack of maple syrup. There's bourbon, there's toasted oak staves, hints of coconut, hints of vanilla. That should all be coming through there as well. And, the vanilla when you sort of freshly scrape it. And at the same time, you should be getting those hints of like stout, that little bit of coffee, that little bit of roast, but also this big toffee mouth aroma and later on mouthfeel that's coming from this barley wine. It's in the taste, it's not super sweet. It's not so sticky that you would feel like it's syrup, but it has this great body going on in there as well that just kind of like layers it on. It just lingers on the tongue, the sweetness so much. It's almost like a syrup itself when you get through it. And super creamy, super ridiculously again sessionable in my opinion for the ABV.
Fireplace sipper.
Yeah, we're calling this one, by the way. This is an imperial dark ale because it's a combination of this imperial stout and this barley wine. So there's not really a good beer style to describe that, but we feel that this is kind of a good way to keep that in check.
There's a question coming out. What kind of wood they're using for these maple syrup barrels?
Oak, American oak.
Okay.
Toasted on the inside as well.
Okay. That's really delicious. Really, that's really, really good beer.
Thank you. It's pretty intense.
It's really intense, but it's holding really what it says, You can see what you want to showcase, and that's, as we discussed before, it's all about the drinkability, all about
so it's in the
idea what you get out.
Yeah. We wanted to say what this beer is. This is maple. That's maple-licious. There is more going on, but like front and center is this. That's what we want to like extract. Out of it.
Yeah, and I hope we surprise people that we are not delivering syrup. I mean, it's not that over sticky syrup, which you would expect maybe from the name, but it delivers still the maple super nice.
No, that's perfect. And again, it's really smooth, it's round. That's also a fireplace beer, when it's really getting cold, like you guys have it now, -12, or maybe now it's already -14, then it's a perfect beer for that kind of days, when you're sitting at home. Yeah. No, it's great.
And this is really one that we feel will hold up pretty well in people's cellars. I don't believe that this is getting worse with age. I personally I have a half a case of this in my cellar. I don't think it's getting worse, it's getting better.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree.
But the best thing is we don't know what will happen. We just hope it will get better, but what is better, we don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
That's about the cellar series, the surprise aspect.
So I looked to my list, what we still have, because we discussed this Ödesholm.
Odensohn.
Yes. So I have only left Rookewein. I have some bottles left of this barrel-aged wine beer, but it's not so old, I guess, huh?
I think it's only gotten better, but again, this is the beauty especially when you have like this is also the recommendation but when you like some beer so much, buy 3-4 bottles, put them away, build up a discipline, open one every 6 months. Then you can be part of the evolution, and then you can also understand where this beer is going. Is it going up or is it going down? For example, in Estonia, there's a very big like a forum group on internet of beer geeks. And from Põhjala, barrel-aged beers, many of them have the sample land, and then they share experience. When one is opening something that is very rare and old, then they say and this is the name, I think it's over, because there's only one name. I think it's over, meaning I think it's over the top, or it's only 2 answers. Is it over, or is still going? So in that sense, I recommend it. It's a fun, this is what I'm doing. I know that Chris is doing, we're building our own cellars of beers. Of course, we have a good access, and we are doing it for personal, but I really like it to see how the beer are evolving and they're going, and then you understand that then,
we had some guys, the beer is called Sein,
yeah.
Was this beer really popular in Finland?
So the beer is actually I am gonna only introduce.
Giant is sold out, huh? I guess.
Yeah. This is. I was actually super surprised that you still have it, because Cyan means century in Estonian. Yeah. Estonia turned 100 years old. Estonian Republic celebrated 100 years old in 2018. This beer was brewed to celebrate Estonia 100 years. It was called Century. It has 100 years best before. It was one of the best beers of Europe that year. But Chris will tell you about the beer.
Yeah, so the beer itself was a imperial Baltic porter, of course, brewed with a lot of rye, and rye is the national grain over here. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to go really deep into the connection locally. And then it was aged in 3 different types of ways. So one was aged on oak ships that had been soaked in Vanetallinn, are sort of the national liqueur, let's say, the most
straw.
Yeah, exactly. And also in rye whiskey, and also some in cognac, and blended all together based off of that, just to create as much of a connection to the rye Baltic porter as we possibly could, because we know the Baltic porter works well in cognac. We know that rye is the national grain, so rye Baltic porter should work in rye whiskey, and then of course this in the Vanetallinn. It was a pretty unique beer in terms of barrel aging, and one of our first big blending experiments, and I think it paid off remarkably well. And it's continued to age really nicely in that way. So it's pretty cool that you have some still left, because I'd encourage you to pick that up and see how it's tasting right now.
If you're listening, please go to beerlovers.com. Yes. Beerlovers.at and order some. This is fantastic beer. I mean, some dudes in Estonia would buy it.
Yeah.
No.
I think.
Hold on, Chris and Peter. Don't promote it too hard. Because there are already some guys which figured out from Finland. That's why I ask you. We get a request if we can sell them a few bottles because they were searching for it. And so don't promote it too hard, because you know me. Sometimes I want a little bit more, because I think maybe it can happen that the beer will be good, and I will put it aside. But of course, it's still available. No, nothing happened. But I think it was a good explanation,
is to order a little bit more so that you can surprise in a few months on the shelves. Doing the cellaring work for someone. It's a really good thing as well.
And that's what we do, since 2014 or 2013, when we started really getting focus on different beers. There's a big cellar in Vienna, where we collect some beers, you know. So yeah,
it doesn't surprise me that there's interest from Finland, because as we explained, the markets are kind of connected and very knowledgeable of the hits or the good beers, you know. And
yeah, perfect. So there's one of the last questions we're gonna do tonight is, it's gonna be a question about the wax you're using, you know. So are you also experimenting with the sealing wax recipe? Some are very hard to open. Your is very thin and easy to handle. It is also something focused on it.
Yeah, it's a good question, and we still are not. We still haven't found our home yet, and it's not like we are blending the waxes, but it's to be honest, you know, it's a little bit the most beautiful wax is the most expensive, so we are a little bit trying out different suppliers and still finding one. So the ones we had today are maybe too thinner, but they're much easier. In the end, we have realized that it doesn't have to be too heavy. It looks beautiful, but it doesn't have to be too heavy, because if you really want to seal the crown cap, it can be 1-2 millimeters of wax, and it helps. And it also is keeping the people happy. So if people have some beautiful and hard, then it was the moment that we were still about very much of the look. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now I realize that the thinner version is better. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have been changing. So it's not experimenting, but we are trying to offer the better consumer experience.
Okay. Good answer. So you're not blending the wax.
Okay.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. So I would say now is the time for the last questions. If there are some questions left, because my list was full of questions and I go through all of them. And
super. Nice.
It was really, really nice. You know, I really enjoyed this tasting, and I guess pretty everyone really enjoyed it, you know, because you guys were really open, natural, transparent, you know, you answered everything, you know, people ask, you know, that's what it's for, the whole tasting, you know. We also get some details about relationships, recipes, hops you used, you know, kind of an insight of the barrel-aged program. And of course, also you invited us and also some other people to do a sauna tour together, maybe with you.
Yeah. Okay.
We're gonna do this. Okay. So thank you, Chris. Thank you, Peter, for taking this time. I hope you enjoyed it like I did.
That's and great being here for us.
We all enjoyed it, and it's really good to hear. So maybe there's one last sentence you want to spread out to the Austrian beer drinkers and beer lovers.
Yes, of course there is. I mean, just take interest in our beer. It's not just like any other beer. I hope we have convinced you that in every brew we have something to say. We want to try and put our personality, our country, our influence into the beer. The darker you go, the more you get of us. You know, in that sense, you know, we recommend to taste of our darker stuff, but most of all, you know, we invite you to see us, you know, because especially now when almost fucking year we haven't been moving, so come see us when we can, and if you can't, then taste us. The darker you go, the more Põhjala you will taste.
Okay.
And I'd also like to say as well, like it's been a troublesome year for all of us, so we really appreciate that you guys are you're taking this tasting experience and allowing us to actually keep this conversation going.
Yes,
you know.
Yes,
and I mean, personally, I can't wait to actually do this more in person with you. So yeah, thanks for being here for us.
No.
Have some more beers, and that's all.
Thanks for having us, and you are more than welcome all the time in Austria.
We will. Oh. Vienna Festival will happen. Will come now.
Hopefully in November. We will see what will happen.
I know that.
Pretty sure not in May, but we hope in November it will be, or maybe also in the summer. I don't know. Really, there's nothing planned yet. So, danke auch von meiner Seite, danke für das rege Interesse, danke fürs Zuschauen und ich glaube, es war wirklich eine tolle Geschichte. Kurz Werbung in eigener Sache oder für euch speziell. Es geht weiter mit den Online-Verkostungen. Am 27.01. haben wir die Bierschmiede vom Attersee zu Gast. Mario Schenkenberger wird uns seine Biere präsentieren. Am 3. Februar haben wir eine Amerika-Box, Super Bowl-Box. Und das ist zum ersten Mal, dass wir den Bierpapst Konrad Seidl begrüßen dürfen. Und das wird sehr, sehr spannend. Die Biere sind spannend, aber auch meine Gäste sind spannend. Also auf der einen wird sein Bierpapst Konrad Seidl und auf der anderen Seite wird sein Rick Kempen. Und ich glaube, für diejenigen, die die beiden Leute oder vielleicht einen der beiden kennen, wissen, dass sie sehr viel Spaß mitbringen. Und ich glaube, das wird eine sehr tolle Verkostung. Am 9. Februar ist es so, dass wir eine sehr spezielle Verkostung haben. Wir werden alkoholfreie Biere verkosten. Ich war der Meinung, ich bin nach wie vor der Meinung, sehr viele von euch fragen nach alkoholfreien Bieren und dann haben wir gedacht, okay, wir sollten auch diesen Bierstil einmal gemeinsam verkosten und dafür habe ich gewonnen den Honzo, seines Zeichens Braumeister von Brauerei und unseren lieben Freund Andreas Urban. Also das sind mal die nächsten Termine, die fix sind, vielleicht noch nicht online, aber spätestens bis zum Ende in der Woche. Und dann im März kommt etwas ganz Spezielles, da kann ich schon mal so ein bisschen vorteasern. Wir werden eine Verkostung mit einer polnischen Brauerei machen, aber alles Weitere wird folgen. In diesem Sinne, danke fürs Zuschauen, danke für euer Interesse, ich wünsche euch noch einen schönen Abend, bleibt gesund und bis zum nächsten Mal. Gute Nacht.